Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game. I always do finger guns at this spot in the video. I am Stranger Side, your host and community ambassador for the Collective community. I am joined today, way out of order, by Grief, my co-host.
I'm in pain.
And he's already annoyed, folks. We're also joined by my less faithful, no adjective co-host, Empty Folder.
Hello, everyone. And
today we are joined by our special guest, the realm creator, admin, air quotes, for Gemmel, Acoustic.
What up?
He'll be the admin soon. We're gonna get some Gemmel cards in probably.
Soon, maybe when other people make cards for my realm.
Yeah, when other people do it. Get on it, guys. Let's start for the accepted submissions from the previous week with Iniblis The Deceitful, which is a 3-drop mine 3/3 elemental arcanist from Seal of Elementary. That's a name we haven't heard in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Summon if you control 3 or more arcanists, reduce the cost of actions in your deck by 1, and active, create a silence copy of this and bounce this. So this is a really, really cool potential synergy for arcanists. Both in terms of the Arcanist enters play and with their Spellslinger action whenever you play an action synergy. And I think this is actually really, really cool. Things I really like, create a silence copy of this. Obviously non-native synergy potentially, which currently best deck I've been able to find for non-native synergy is actually Vrictic. So this actually fits in really nicely. Grief, what do you think of this?
A very, very powerful card, considering that it reduces the cost of all actions in your deck, and you can pretty easily, in Legacy at least, set it up that, okay, turn 1, Arcanist, turn 2, Arcanist, turn 3, drop Iblis, now all your actions cost 1 less. From then on, you can actually basically try to storm off with an action-heavy deck.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'd like to ask you, Grief, because you and I are the kind of people who would be thinking about this kind of thing. Could this be the return of a Rare Fate style combo with Door to Elsewhere?
Technically, yes. Technically, no, considering that, if I remember correctly, rare material is similarly blocked to Tusknute, which means that even if a card is reduced to the cost of 0, it is automatically set to 1.
Well, but
it has to be reduced, and no, it has to be reduced after the effect of rare material kicks in. So it has to be reduced in the hand.
Well, but this cost reduction is not. So it's a similar style.
No. The thing is, the moment you draw into it, it should automatically set to 1.
I'm not sure
via
rare material.
Via rare material.
Oh, dang it.
That's why Tusknute doesn't reduce costs to 0, even if the card could do it by itself.
Anyways, I'd be excited running Spellslinger, probably with my deck that's already running 3 copies Door to Elsewhere. I'd even splash in Whims just to get more cycling through with this. Because you only need to get it off like 1 or 2 times before it really starts being the value train. Empty, what do you think of this?
Very strong card. It's going to be interesting to see these Arcanist decks that run this card, because I think they're definitely going to exist since this is so strong. But those decks are really going to need to find the balance where they can reliably proc this, but also have enough actions where the cost reduction actually matters.
Yeah, it is board-based, so it's more fair than the problematic metas we've seen with Action Spam in the past.
Yeah, you do have to maintain a board of Arcanists.
Yeah. Acoustic, what do you think?
I mean, this is Incanter's Flow on a stick that's potentially repeatable. With now I look at it, I thought it was you have to control 3 other Arcanists, but this is with a
this at +2.
Yeah, like with a not terribly backbreaking condition. So I didn't even realize you could turn 1 Arcanist, turn 2 Arcanists, and 3 Nibbles. I was thinking like. So something that would be really good to proc this Soul Crusher, because that's 4 Arcanists for 3 mana with like the condition of, oh, you have to blow up one of your Arcanists, and presumably it's like one of your summon ones, I guess. I mean, that works. That's like 4 fireballs with a Pyromancer that instantly procs this guy's condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a really strong card, and this is probably going to be the thing that makes Arcanists, well, a thing.
Well, and that kind of justifies also my folding it into the non-native deck, because if you're running this with a bunch of Soul Crusher and a bunch of Fragments, you're going to have a whole bunch of tokens for your Belfry or your Recruiter to pick up.
True.
This could get nuts. I'm gonna brew this. I love this so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Equity, the first of the Pangal cards. Even though it's really kind of hard to see because of the silhouette. Equity is a 2-drop spirit action from nowhere in particular. Draw a unit and an action, and you can't play them this turn. So this is interesting. It's a filter draw 2. In decks that are running action light, this can be basically your tutor, because you just play it, wait a turn, play it, and then eventually you'll chain into whatever your action is. Reminding me kind of how Bursting Blight is. If you're trying to get your 1/1 drop, you're just, okay, if it's another Bursting Blight, who cares? Pop it down and just keep playing until I get it. But yeah, I do think this is interesting. It has an interesting condition, and it plays well into some of the other designs, one of which we're going to talk about today. Grief, what do you think of this?
Funny enough, this basically fits into a simpler deck which Iniblis tries to promote, where you actually want to have a delicate balance between units and actions, and this basically provides you best of both worlds. Sure, it's of affinity, but you can probably even run it because Iniblis reduces the cost of actions. So in the worst case scenario, this costs 2 after Iniblis, or if you're running it in KM, you can actually reduce it down to 1. Which probably is the best home for an Iniblis type cost reduction deck. So I love this card. It has multiple applications in different decks, for be it food, be it just unit-based control to get to your actions that help you out in a utilitarian way. It has space in Legacy, in Standard. This card will probably be a mainstay in any kind of deck which relies on a good match of actually getting your key actions in a unit-heavy deck and vice versa.
Yeah, it has space in so many decks. It's just what that creator does. He just is space. Empty. What do you think of this?
I love this card. This is an amazing design. I think the clause where you can't play them this turn is a great way of balancing out the draw effect, because it is quite powerful. And it can be a tutor, but you do have to be okay if you're tutoring an action waiting for a while, because you could go into like 2 or 3 of these and have to wait a few turns.
Yeah, that slows it down. So for those who don't like tutors, this is a good compromise. And it's in the game.
You can still do it. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think it's an awesome design.
Which is about what the pace of Bursting Blight was if you're trying to get for your green men or whatever, where you have to do something, wait for it to die, do something, wait for it to die. And so I've seen this that kind of cadence before, and it's totally fair. Acoustic, what do you think?
I think that this is very interesting, because this is a card that gets better the earlier you play it and worse the later you play it, because if I play this on 2, it's basically 2 mana draw 2, because I'm not going to be able to play the cards anyway, and that's like really good. And in that same vein, it's also just like a good like filler card, like mana filler card, like if I have like 2 mana open and I can end my turn with this and then ignore the downside. I'm kind of skeptical about how good this will be as like a tutor for as like an action tutor, but I think it's like it just being 2 mana draw on 2 with the downside being pretty easy to circumvent. I think it's going to see play in like a lot of spirit decks. I think it's just going to be like a good draw.
No, I'm gonna run this as my unit tutor. I'm just gonna run no units.
Yeah, that pretty much. You can draw like you have like one unit. You can have a spirit. You can do spirit action spam.
Actually, yeah. So the green men deck and the status that the status my green men deck is, at least, is it is running 3 copies of Green Men, 3 copies of Trench Coats, and then Bellist. And so it actually has problems drawing to units, so I could use this as my extra and Bursting Blight. So I could use this as my extra way to get to my Bursting Blight, my Green Men, and all that. Because that deck's pretty unit light. As I'm running it, of course, there's other variants flying around because it's Green Men or whatever.
Just solid card.
Yeah. Head Chieftain, I'm not even going to try. Dzikus is an 8-drop Spirit 6/8 Daling from Sweatlow, and a legendary at that. Fast duelists regenerate entrance and before combat. Ready this. Allied Dalings have +2 attack and slay excess damage is dealt to the opponent. And Entomb, create a Young Chiefess. Young Chiefess, for those of you who don't remember, your other Dalings have +1/+1 active and allied unit, duels a unit you choose. And it's a 2/4 for 4. So cool stuff. The entrance, ready this, so we're getting some more summon entrance, ready this type effects. And he can duel. And this slay excess damage is dealt to the opponent is really, really interesting. I know we do have in standard a couple equipments or a couple different ways to get overrun. And so with that, you can actually get sort of double overrun where you're killing something, excess damage is dealt over. And the way I understand this, you don't ever want to multi-block this. So that can be really, really cool. And it builds up kind of this keyword synergy. I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing maybe someone brewing this with Hydraxy soon, at least for maybe a legacy setting. MT, what do you think of this?
What?
MT, what do you
yeah.
think of this?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Sweatlow on a successful legendary. I mean, honestly, this just kind of fills in all the holes that Daylings were missing. It was very difficult for them to actually close out games, and this helps just a ton with that. It plays right into their duelist thing and lets that actually turn into face damage, which before they would just like slowly whittle you down with their units, and this lets them actually have that finisher to end the game. So I think it'll be a really important card for the day.
Acoustic, what do you think?
All right, thought Chieftain. This is a really good card. Because like for 8, he's an 8-mana 8/8 since he buffs himself. He comes in, he duels something, blows something up, deals damage to face, and can do it again in the combat step, unless they deal with it. And if they deal with it, you get a Young Chiefess, and he's also upping the rest of your dealing. So if you have like a Prophet on board, then you can, and like that's neat, I guess. This is just like, as MT said, this is like a very good like top end for Daylings, which they didn't have up until this point. Like they were kind of forced to use like a menace as kind of like a top end because they had literally nothing else. There were no big Daylings before stuff like Prophet and Chieftain. It's a good card. I don't think that this will bring Daylings back into a playable state. I think they will still need more cards to kind of make their early game a bit better. Like maybe they'll need like a 5-drop because they have Kazakh, but I don't know. Just maybe like touch up their early game a bit. But like this helps with making their top end a lot better. So since like back in the day, they kind of had to use Hawkins level 2 in order to actually close out games, and then when the level 2 got changed, Daylings had nothing.
Yeah, Grief, what do you think of this?
I like this card. This basically gives everything to, as MT already said, everything to mid-range Daylings that you ever wished for. Quirky little interaction would be coming up with a later card that we will talk about. Turning another card into a Dayling and benefiting off of the bounty that Head Chieftain actually provides. Think of maybe a Flamebringer or Firestarter. A Firestarter, which now is a 6/3, maybe even giving it duelist via lightning rapier and dueling of a unit, dealing 8 damage to face due to the effect of Firestarter, and now every excess damage that Firestarter also did is also transferred to the opponent's face. That just sounds very interesting, to say the least.
Oh, I think I know what card you're talking about. I'm gonna bring up a stupid idea with this. So guys, remember this card, and we'll talk about it when we get to the other one.
Oh boy.
Okay. Now, I was so happy that this card got in. We did talk about it a little bit, but I'm more than happy to bring it back up. Mana Theorist is a 5-drop mine 4/5 Chrono Scientist from Xandar. The first Chrono, guys. With summon, shuffle your hand into your deck. Choose to draw either that many 3 or less cost cards or 4+ cost cards. So there are 3 skull-headed species in Xandar. There's the Egan, which are bison-headed. The Hearing, which are deer-headed. And, you know, those are easy enough to confuse. But the Krana are bird-headed. And so we got the bird skull thingies. Of course, I like Filter Draw. I'm so glad we finally got a Krana in the game. That's about all I have to say about it. Acoustic, I think you picked this one. So what did you want to say?
Yeah, I think I think it's a very cool and a unique card. Like you play this guy and you basically get to sculpt your hand with a certain mana range of cards. So it's like if you need like your low cost cards, you can play this guy and get your low cost cards. If you need like your top ends, you can play this guy and get your top ends. I'm not sure if this effect is worth it on a 5-mana 4/5.
I think it needs to come out earlier, especially because we already have like a lot of competition at that slot with Ghost of the
like
Fortuna.
It's a cool effect, and I want it to see play, but I think currently a 5-mana do nothing is kind of not really going to be good in like the current state of the game.
It's a big filter though.
It is a big it is a big filter, but like playing it on 5, like if you're already behind, like playing this guy isn't gonna help too much, unless your 6 is like really good, like a pre-nerf Crimson Caravan or something. But Caravan is nerfed now, and that's in a different affinity. So
I think this might see an update.
Like 4-mana 3/4 maybe 4-mana 4/4.
Just drop every number by 1, and it'll be fine.
Something like that.
We already kind of talked about that a little bit. Grief and Empty, did you want to say anything else on this card you didn't say last week?
I'm happy it got in. Makes me want Scientist Tribal, actually. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Class Tribal for the win. Okay, we're just going to jump straight into the active submissions. So these are submissions on the subreddit you can vote on now. Starting with the Pangal Staff, which is another card for the Pangal thing. There's a 3-drop Spirit Equipment from nowhere in particular. Give a unit +3/+3 and give it Ward and Regenerate if the last card you played was a unit. So a lot of people talk about overrunning this for only equipment thing. One thing that I've always been a fan of is good old Regenerate. I'm used to playing Magic, so it's probably where that comes from. Mm-hmm. So I think these Pangals have an interesting thing. For those of you who haven't been following, their whole thing is playing on and off unit action, unit action, unit action. In that order. Like the actions care if the last card was a unit, the units care if the last card was an action. I think that kind of tempo is interesting, but it's fairly easy to achieve. And so I think this card is very balanced at the very least, where the condition does take some effort, but not too terribly a lot of effort. It does have a little bit of a memory issue, especially if you're trying to play this on 3. Well, no, I guess if you're playing on 3, you're fine. But in the middle of the game, you might get a little confused as what the last thing you did is. But yeah, really just good, solid roundabout. It fixes a lot of the issues with equipment because it makes you sturdier, and it also prevents you from being 2-for-1. So this is like a golden example of an equipment that's not a trash. Trash has their own cool stuff going on. Grief, what do you think of this?
In regard to the memory issue thing, we have a history bar on the side of the screen.
I still haven't figured out how to use that thing, man.
It bugs out sometimes too.
And
there
it bugs
are cards
out
that
sometimes.
make it go wild.
Bro. Campus. I plot the history bar.
Anyways.
Okay. Like the card a lot. it actually provides some very interesting sequencing when it comes to deck building and actually gameplay speed. The problem is though, if you try to hard lean into these kinds of things where you probably try to achieve the sequencing correctly in the later stages of the game, but at that point, maybe it's not really that effective to just slap +3/+3 effect and what regenerate on a unit if you didn't really, well, benefit off of it.
Yeah, I can kind of see your argument, but I think if you hit the pacing right, this could really work out pretty well. Especially if you're running a true Voltron deck where you have a bunch of really, really weak dudes that you could just slap these effects on. I know in my Green Man Trash deck, this is the kind of thing where, yeah, sure, I have a 1-drop in hand and I'm gonna play my buff straight to it because my 1-drop is
the thing with Voltron though is that it basically specifically cares about like 1 to 3, maybe at most 3 units that you slap multiple effects on. So in that case, the sequencing is already pretty botched.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you still need to run redundancy, especially with some of the efficiency of the removal. So, Empty, what's your thought on it?
I think it looks quite strong. Ward and Regenerate are really good keywords, especially if you're able to like play a duelist before this. This is like the ideal duelist equipment because it gives you really good health and Ward and Regenerate. Not much else to say about it. I like the Pangals thing. This is just a very strong card. Maybe a bit pushed, but I think it's about right.
Yeah, I think it's about fair. It's a little under if you don't meet the condition. It's a little over if you do, which is about where it should be. Acoustic. Oh.
No, it's fine.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
You got spooked by a background noise. Go.
This is fine because like it's good if you get the condition, but if you don't get the condition, it's Enrage, and Enrage was really bad. So like when you don't have the condition, it's basically a dead card in your hand. So I wonder how often is this going to just be a dead card in your hand? So I'm not sure how good it is. But I'm fine with it personally. I don't have too much to say on it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's really, I think if you run this in the right deck, it's really easy to meet the condition. You just don't run that many actions.
Yeah, maybe.
I just think it's good to have a better Ward and Regenerate filler because I think those are actually 2 gaps in our current equipment suite as well. So
yeah.
It's hard to run in an equipment deck though, because you may not have the unit.
Well, yeah, like you have to hit this weird balance, like Grief said. That's the potential issue with the Voltron. But since I'm running like 3 off Bursting Blight, 3 off Green Men, I'm usually able to do it. So maybe it's just a matter of finding a way to get it to work. Kaufhand's Rigor is a 4-drop spirit action from Walnut with shuffle a unit into its owner's deck. That player creates 3 1/1 copies of it. I love 1/1s. I love 1/1 copies. I love copies in general. I love non-natives. This thing is totally up my alley. My only minor complaint is the spirit, but whatever. I'll pay the pay the 1 tax. I'm a single player guy. This is also potentially useful as a really, really goofy removal against pretty much anything that's just touting a bunch of keywords. Another really, really fun thing to do with this potentially is if you're running this in like Daylings, you could go get 3 Dayling Rogues out and have a nice little board prepared whenever your opponent decides to attack you. Empty, how do we feel about this?
It's a really interesting card. It's another one of those things where like you could do all these interesting things, but in my mind, I'm just like, I know this is going to be running Green Man and probably nothing else.
Yeah. But boy, it's good for Green Man.
Yeah, it is very good for Green Man. And there'll be the like the once in a blue moon situation where this actually works as removal, which is funny.
It's actually
it's a cool card.
It's really fun to slap this on a Trenchcoat Trio.
Yeah, like I said, Green Man. If anyone can come up with a use other than Green Man, that'd be great, because my mind is blank.
Well, if we had the Flamingo tribal deck, but no.
We don't. I upvoted the Flamingo every time. It just
break
doesn't get
Flamingo
in.
wide open though.
Acoustic, what do you think?
I for some reason I like wasn't thinking about Green Man with this, and like yeah, Green Man probably makes this like insane. But yeah, of course you can do like funky removal stuff in Control, I guess, or you have like your 50 billion board wipes and you can turn their one big dude into a bunch of smaller dudes and then you can wipe the board in.
Which is what Soul Extraction was supposed to be before it got updated.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, and then I guess you can use it on yourself. Besides using Green Man with like with like effect dudes that already have small bodies, you can get like 3 of them, and then you can do some funny stuff with that.
Actually, another potential use for this, if you're running like maybe a shifter style deck with neons, doing shifter neons.
Shifter neons.
Oh, guys.
Yeah, because I can just proc 3 copies of an entrance effect.
The thing is, Shifter doesn't work for these kinds of builds anymore.
Yeah.
In single player, it does.
I guess.
I mean, even in single player. I mean, even in single player, yeah, sure it does, but it's still pretty shit to do so.
I mean, single player.
So, Grief, what's your solve for this? Do you have something other than Green Man?
Dude, I mean, slap it on a unit that actually cares about being on the board, that have multiple effects of that trigger on the board. I mean, Acoustic actually can attest to that. I've been trying my hand on some very janky hand destruction bullshit, and now think about 3 copies of Bulb Acoustic.
Yeah.
That's 9 damage on board.
Oh.
At the end of turn.
Yeah.
Just by shuffling back a card that I can actually search off of my parallelism. And on the other hand, you can also turn what your 1/1s now into parallelism targets, because a large majority of cards which care about your Green Man-ish deck are 1/1s. So if you actually want to have a very reliable tutor for your 1/1 units, turn one of your potential effect monsters, effect units into a 1/1. Not the Green Man in per se, but another unit, and now have 3 copies of it. Bursting Blight, now we have 3 1-cost searchers on the board, which are 1/1s. Now we can also put parallelism on them, and draw 2 cards, which are 1/1s, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, as I mentioned, you want to copy trigger effects, passive abilities, etc. Because at that point, be it cost reduction, be it stuff like Blood Painter, now all your affinity cards cost 3 less. Sure, you're burned for 6 when you play them, but still, if you can actually manage the bleeding off of that effect, you still have a -3 off of affinity cards.
Yeah. Okay, and the third one, my third pick I wanted to talk about was the Raw Crystal. Is a 2-drop neutral 0/4 tribeless. Oops. With for nowhere in particular. That's the realm. Can't attack, can't block, and active. Pay 3 mana to gain 1 max mana. So I think I actually did talk to Collis Atlas is the username of the person who does this. They sign their cards really weird. But I think this would work really great for Lucinegetica and have, I don't know, illusion or whatever they do as tribes there, which is weird. But as a tribeless unit, it's whatever. It's kind of an enchantment anyway. Can't attack, can't block. Pay 3 to gain 1. So on turn 3, if you're willing to just deal with this barrage of missing out on your second turn, missing out on your third turn, you can get quite a bit of value on your 4th turn. But my question, I guess, is this worth it? Is there a way to mitigate some of the penalties you're suffering with this? What do we think? Acoustic, what do you think of this?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I can really give like an unbiased opinion about this card, because I'm just kind of not too much of a fan of like repeatable ramp effects. I don't know.
But I think this is pretty weak, isn't it? Like, what are you scared of?
People
What's
have
the
been
outcome
saying
you're scared
this. like I have talked to people about this. They and they've said the same thing. I just don't like it for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, so
You got some biases to work past. Lord knows
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me before on the show. Grief, what do you think of this?
Next. It's
Oh, come
pretty
on.
weak.
Say something
Okay.
about the card. I'm not paying you for nothing.
I mean, I'm not saying nothing, but okay. Raw Crystal. By the way, why is this not from Terradora? Because
This
it's a
is-
crystal.
The tribe line is completely ignored. That's it
Well-
not being from Terrador is
Well,
not the
I
biggest
think
issue.
this
here.
the
It's a
art
nothing.
requirement.
No,
on
no,
it-
no, 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 no. Let me explain. It is a crystal which can't attack, can't block, and provides you mana.
That is fair. That is fair. I think the art on the art sheet had a restriction.
Okay,
But yeah, no, this could go into
jokes
Terrador
aside,
just fine.
jokes aside, though, this is very weak. The only way I can actually see this working is in single player when you play stuff like Perma or Dot. And
Mhm.
even then, that's a stretch. Outside of that scenario, skipping 3 turns is kinda hilariously bad.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you really wanted some jank single player build with this, you could ramp out Starlight Pendant. As a single player guy, like that's my one thought is this lets me break the 13 cap, go 13 cap, go.
I mean, then you could still play stuff like Ophidia instead.
Yeah.
And if you want Pendant, you play First Word.
Yeah, I think that it's just hard to get this to be popular because like there's this trade-off of like people like Acoustic who don't like repeated ramp. And then there's the trade-off with like making it interesting and compelling and making it not busted and also playable. And it's just a tricky balance to hit, I think. I think maybe some other resource other than mana might have made this work.
You could probably turn it into a 0/2 for 2 and make it not an active, but trigger off the if you spent at least 3 mana that turn.
That's interesting. It's perhaps a little cheaty because I think most of the time people are going to meet that condition. I would rather bleed for this.
That's why I said you have to reduce the HP value of that unit to be easily removable.
Yeah, I would rather see like having to bleed for this instead, and that would make it a better fit for like something like Terrador if they were interested in slapping a realm on it.
Yeah.
MT, what do you think of this?
I mean, the current version is just way too slow. It just needs some trade-off so that you can make it faster. Because you just can't spend 2 turns doing nothing but getting 1 max mana. You're just gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, with the current state of the meta, at least, do you think any of the suggestions we're kicking around have it be like a based around mana spend?
I mean, there's a lot of
instead?
ways. I think if you want to keep everything the same, the numbers still need to be adjusted a bit. But in order to make it actually get in, I mean, Acoustic has a good point. A lot of people don't like repeated mana ramp.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe making it so that the crystal itself is giving you the max mana, like just active, pay 3 mana or whatever number, this gets +1 max mana. So that when your opponent removes it, it goes away.
That
could be a good way of doing it. And then also encourages you to like protect the crystal a bit.
Yeah, and I think even then maybe the payment could go down a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. No matter what the design you do, the payment and stuff has
payment
to go
is
down.
either change or go down. Yeah. Discard would be better than pay 3 mana.
Discard would actually be really good. That would make this card nutty.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, any other kind of payment would be more suitable. Yeah, you're right. Discard would be busted. Okie dokie then.
Oh man, don't taunt me like that, Stranger Side. I want that card now. Let me ramp out my Donruku.
Discard 3 cards.
Spectral Sword is a 3-drop spirit 5/1 Spectre equipment from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With Agile, and when this enters the graveyard, give an ally unit +2 attack. So, really, really fun. A little bit of a sort of a free value shenanigans. Stuff that I like thinking about is doing this like with Consult. You can potentially grab value off of this at least twice. And there's other ways to do just really cool shenanigans with it. It's a 5/1 Agile. It's just adorable. I mean, you just that you want to die. Like it's super cute. Grief, why did you pick this card today? What do you think of this?
It's a living fireball on a stick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it basically runs the line of, okay, good. I drop this on turn 3 if I already have a board established with any kind of unit, especially if I can target units, which makes this also interesting. This just says, okay, good. Kill me, and I don't bleed you or kill a unit on your side with a 5-mana with a 3-mana 5 damage hard removal on a stick. But the payoff is my other dude gets bigger, or I have to deal with that dude. On the other hand, this in the late game, even if you cannot really establish a board or make you utilize it in any shape or form because it could die instantly, any kind of discard effect now gives you +2 on your other cards.
Mm.
This also works in mill.
Yeah. I do think the amount of like value trades you're pulling off of this are just nuts. It might even be a little bit too pushed, but I'm excited to play with it, especially with the decks I've been toying around with. So I like it, but I could see somebody maybe making that kind of argument with me. MT, what do you think?
I mean, it's a Spectre card. Yeah, it's a great card for Spectres, though. Like a lot of the time, you're going to want to save this as discard fodder. But if there's ever that situation where your opponent taps out and you know they don't have that ping and they don't have blockers, or they have one blocker that you know they don't want to lose, you can swing in for 5 damage and catch them out, which is great.
Yeah, that little bit of extra reach it provides you is really, really good.
Yeah.
Acoustic, you're actually the guy who designed this card, so talk about
So I made this in my self-centered attempt to try and make Banisher of Souls viable, to try and push Banisher of Souls OTK, and I made Magma Rager. It's Magma Rager. It has Agile. When it dies, discarded, milled, buffs your dudes. It's an equipment, so you can do the equipment stuff with it. Like there's trash equipment that like mills. You can play Fate Cutter. If you mill this off of Fate Cutter, it makes Fate Cutter even better.
Well, yeah, and you could also luck this with, and not just Fate Cutter, but with a new Rebar Sword as well.
Oh yeah, Rebar Sword.
Because Rebar Sword will mill the equipment, so it'll actually miss this if it's on top for drawing, which is what you want, right? Because you want to proc the free effect.
Yeah. So that makes Rebar Sword a lot better. And then, of course, it deals 5 damage to face when you discard it while you have Banisher of Souls on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is cute. I like this.
Yeah.
I mean, Spectres have the chance to come back now that Essence Shifter is nerfed.
Well,
I'm awaiting the return.
Yeah, well, this just helps a lot of decks. I think this helps Trash a lot. I think this helps all sorts of other just movement-based shenanigans, even like a little bit of a reanimator sort of bent.
Please, Acoustic, on the topic of Brandisher of Souls, to actually make it for the good, make it freaking damn searchable. I tried to make a Spectre deck. I wanted that dude in the deck, but I cannot actually get to him in a very reasonable way.
All right, so I guess I'll just have to make a tutor for him, sure.
Okay. The Shamanistic Painter is a 2-drop Spirit 2/3 Daeling Artisan from Swiatlo. With Summon, make a card in your hand Spirit and a Daeling permanently. I would like to draw everyone's attention to one little section of this card in case you missed this. this says card. So technically, if for whatever reason you want to run Dailing actions, you can now have a Dailing action. Which is good. Turning things into spirit is a good thing.
Yeah.
So obviously this has very obvious influences from everyone who's touched this. Puapka in both the art and the love of splashing, Super Sun in the lore that they're doing for the Sweet Outlaw now, and of course the voice chat, who I'm sure has given plenty of feedback on this card and polished it into this perfect little gem.
Mm-hmm.
I like splashing. I like the idea that this does splashing in a way that's unobtrusive, unoffensive, and still makes this card worth playing in a deck that's not Dailings. That was a big issue. The first version of this I saw was a little too parasitic. I think it only did the tribe change.
Mm-hmm.
What's really fun about this, now that Dzikus is there, is I am convinced, beyond convinced, mind you, that I could finally make Sam the Ram playable.
What?
We have the Dzikus. If we get this, Sam the Ram is playable.
Nope.
I don't get it.
Because it duels a unit and then it gains all the stats off the unit it duels. So it gets bigger and bigger each time, but it has no like overrun or whatever. And so this gives it a pseudo
Sam's
overrun.
bad because it just dies.
Should have just said this is next level jank. You're gonna turn your ram into a Dailing so you can use the Dailing lords on it.
Yeah.
I didn't have problem scaling. The problem was that he just dies.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so I skipped over something. We'll go back to it. Okay. Empty, what do you think of this?
I'm not really sure about this card. I think it may be a bit weak actually. A 2-mana 2/3 is pretty darn weak. Like that's really not what you want to be doing on your turn 2. Since it provides nothing of value immediately on the board. And like how many non-Dailing units are you actually running in your Dailing deck? Because if it's not enough to draw one reliably, this could be doing almost nothing in there. Like the summon could be just wasted. And yes, you can like make off affinity card spirit, but you're not actually getting like cost reduction off that. You're just getting it back to what the cost was originally.
Yeah.
I'm just not too sure where this card fits in.
I think a good, just a healthy dose of like minor splashing is good. I don't know. I like it. Acoustic, what do you think of this?
Okay, Empty. This is not a Dailing card. This is a shifter card. Because with the new changes to a shifter, that card now encourages you to like run stuff like African Shrine, like Day Right, basically stuff that's like making your cards that makes your card spirit, so you don't have to deal with the increased affinity penalty, and and then this is another piece of that package. So this is basically like extra copies of Half-Reclaimed Shrine for the purposes of making my off affinity card spirit, and I think in that fashion it's pretty good. Like I'm paying 1 stat point so I can make my caravan normal cost, or like my War Dragon or my Banner Sister. I don't know what the new shifter lists run, but just like the good cards that you run to like this is another way to make them playable. If this gets in there, it'll be like 3 cards that'll be able to make stuff spirit. So that'll make the new shifter decks a lot better. So I would kind of like to see this just to have a new thing to play around with. Now shifter is not.
The art on this one's lovely. I like just the art.
Definitely.
I feel like we need to get this guy and just get the art in. Like slap some effect on him, dude.
Yeah, something.
Oh no, you used it as a profile pic for a bit, didn't you, Acoustic?
Yes, I did.
Just because it's just so lovely. Grief, what do you think of this?
Regarding the shifter thing, this only works in spirit. The problem with shifter though is he's kind of terribly bad now for any kind of deck that isn't able to actually abuse the fact that A, the cards cost more, and B, get around that cost inefficiency. Many decks after the nerf got killed because they cannot actually afford a two cost of affinity penalty.
Yeah, that it's almost like that was the point or something.
Yeah, the problem is it killed a lot of decks that weren't actually good in the first place and only relied on Shifter to actually be playable.
Well, that was collateral because like
Yeah, no,
Shifter
but in
and stuff.
that regard, the only decks that actually are helped out via Shamanistic Painter for Shifter are already decks that don't really read Shamanistic Painter for Shifter shenanigans because they have ways around that cost penalty in the first place.
Okay, so what am I making into a Dailing then, Grief?
The thing is, the Dailing shit is basically useless on any kind of unit, besides maybe, as I mentioned, Firestarter. The very interesting thing about turning Dailings for the new head Chieftain, turning cards into Dailings, is for burn spells or burn actions. Because they can actually do excess damage.
Does that work?
That actually works.
Oh, that is awesome.
That could be cool. I gotta look into that because I think
That's
normally it
funny.
only affects things in play and actions technically never hit play.
We have to probably
I need
check
to
that again
check the
because
blocks on Chieftain
We
now.
would need to check it.
yeah, because I mentioned because I've seen someone actually try that before and it actually worked with certain kind of passives. If that similar blocking is on head shifter, you can basically turn a meltdown into 3 damage. Oh yeah, I kill a dude. We both burn for the same excess damage. Would be nice.
Yeah, I have unfortunate news.
Ah, damn it.
Head Chieftain is blocked for in play. So
Damn
it won't
it.
work on action.
There's an update to be done.
You can always update it.
I really want to board clear with Slayer deal the excess damage to your opponent. That sounds amazing now.
Let's put an update out.
The absolute storm to end all absolute storms.
The absolute state.
Okay. Lord of Ideas is a 3-drop mind 1/5 Theowen from Miracle or Miracle or
Miracle?
Miracle. Whenever you
There we
play a
go.
card that isn't sudden inspiration, create a sudden inspiration, and this takes 1 damage. I'm not going to say the way it's worded. It's worded super goofy. Sudden inspiration is a 1-drop fast draw card. So, why? Acoustic, you start.
Okay, first, shouldn't this be like an artisan? I feel like this should be an artisan.
Almost certainly. Why?
Because as far as I know, the person on Sudden Inspiration and Terrible Drawer are all the same character. I think.
Which means it has multiple names and multiple affinities, and yeah, that's a whole mess.
Yeah, I didn't update for Terrible Drawer, but Draw Tribal?
Okay, well, I mean, okay, so it does make all your cards, I mean, kind of sort of cost 1 more in cantrip. If anything ever cares about non-native actions, which that's probably a long way off, this could be really, really great. So, Space, if you really, really want to get this in, make non-native actions matter, because right now they don't. As far as the paying 1 extra to draw a card, it's cute. It'll work up to 5 times. And then what? I mean, you at least turn your cards in cards at cantrips. I guess that helps you get more fuel. But I think any deck that's really that concerned about gas isn't going to be able to keep up. But maybe I'm wrong. Grief, what do you think?
This card is missing a very important line of text.
And what's that?
Your sudden inspirations cost 0.
That would change it. That might fix it.
That would make it so strong.
The thing is, sudden inspiration is a very shitty card.
Yes.
Thing is, you never want to main deck a sudden inspiration. The only reason for that was the fact before, because you could actually sudden inspiration is basically a card from the old queuing system. That's why it is the way it is, and that's why it's currently bad. With Lord of Ideas, you could actually turn turn any card into, as you said, a cantrip, a delayed one at that. But on the other hand, you can also use it for action spam purposes. spell slinging, whatever.
Yeah.
This thing could be basically an arcanist, whatever, a great arcanist artisan, whatever, would also
Well,
help into the Iblis deck.
Yeah.
Because this would actually allow you to deck thin.
Yeah, so seeing two more tribes on this, I agree, is definitely a thing. I think the 0 cost sudden inspiration thing is risky. I think it's pushed, but I think I need something.
It is probably the right amount of push, and actually, when you crunch the text a bit with actually cutting the fat of the ability text, it can actually fit in the same text box.
Well, yeah. Well, change to 0 cost. You just need to say create a 0 cost, and that'll work.
No, the thing is why I said 0 cost, because you can then at that point also main deck sudden inspirations in Legacy.
Oh, so yeah, you suggested as a passive for that reason. That is possible. That could work. Yeah, it would definitely require some finagling though. That would be interesting. Empty, what do you think?
I actually think this is pretty much fine as is. I think it's really easy to proc. I mean, you're running this in action spam. This is an action spam support card. So in action spam, it's already really easy to play a whole bunch of cards. Like you can just throw out your vicious stares in order to trigger this a lot in one turn. And then you don't have to play the sudden inspirations. You can just save them in your hand. And then when you thought flux later down the line, they're already going to be free and you can just spam them all out. I think it's already pretty good in that deck. I don't think it needs much of a buff at all.
Yeah, okay. I'm starting to see your guys' argument. Actually,
ours for hand.
Another possible solve for this, if you're just looking for a bunch of gas, is when you build up 2 or 3 or 4 of these in your hand, just door to elsewhere, and then you won't draw any sudden inspirations back, and you can use that as a pocket to get you some leverage potentially.
I mean, yeah, the only thing that may hold this back is action spam a deck that actually needs more card draw, because they're already like pretty good at it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's a concern. I'm starting to see this come together in my head. I don't see the one thought I had, and it looks like it was designed very specifically for this. I don't see Doomwalkers running this. I don't think they need this. I think this only really goes in action spam. It seems like it was deliberately like one attack, via win, trying to give you this idea mind for something that's not really there.
You could technically go a little bit more, as I said, and a little bit more on the parasitic route and try to build off of the idea of making sudden inspiration, which, as I said, is a very terrible card. The main key thing about your deck, similar to
I do agree actually with at least that, like caring about sudden inspiration might be an interesting route to go with this. Although it is a little parasitic, so I can see some people not liking that route.
It is interesting, like how far this is strayed from like the original idea of the realm.
Everyone's forgotten the original idea of the realm.
It used to be like miracles from Magic, you know, where like if it's the first card you draw of the turn, you can play it.
See.
Oh,
I don't even remember that.
Okay.
That used to be the original effect of sudden inspiration, is that if you drew it, you could play it immediately.
Yeah, I know. But I thought you mean the realm idea. That was something that I didn't remember.
Disappearing Act is a 2-drop spirit action from nowhere in particular. The opponent chooses a unit they control, banish it. So, okay. Cheap removal. Really, really good against Voltron strats and a lot of other things. Very go tall. Otherwise, kind of meh. But this stuff is really, really good in limited games and Sentinels. This could potentially be really cool. Unfortunately, most of our Sentinels bosses right now dump out so many units. Actually, you're just going to get the AI to make a dumb decision. But
it's great against the AI. For all we know,
just
they may
using this
pick
to
their
bully the
biggest
AI
unit.
is something I am all in for. And point out how bad the AI is. Besides that, I would actually be very interested to hear like stuff on like standard applicability coming from people like Empty Folder go.
I mean, this is Diabolic Edict with Banish attached. which I love. I think basically this encourages you to run a hard control spirit deck where you remove almost all of your opponent's units so they don't have a good choice, and this becomes 2-mana hard removal. The issue is that deck is nowhere even close to existing. Like some of the premium spirit removal, like Now You're Safe, literally leaves them with a unit, which is just anti-synergy with this. If that deck starts to exist, it'll be good in it. But until then, it's if you're not running that deck, this is a terrible card. You're removing your opponent's worst unit for 2 mana.
Acoustic, what do you think of this?
This card already exists. It's called Fork, and it's bad.
Where? What?
Fork is different. Your opponent needs to have 2 units. Disappearing Act works if they have 1. That's the difference.
I guess you can do a 2-mana put down, I guess, but I feel like it kind of has the same problems as Fork. It's Fork in spirit. I don't know. I think it's just bad.
Nope. Actually, that's the completely wrong take about that card, funny enough, because that's actually, as MT said, it's a Diabolic Edict. You're running a very heavy suit of removal and border control anyways. This card, in most cases, hits the right target. And
yeah,
that's
I think someone run like an all-in Diabolic Edict deck in MTG where it was like every single thing was like, I'm going to give you a non-option. It's your option, but it's a non-option, and it's really, really cheap for me to just spam out a bunch of these. And
there are also,
this could really work.
I mean, there are also cards like, I think, Sudden Downfall from Shadowverse, which is a 2-cost spell or action, says, okay, good. This for 2, destroy a random unit on the board. There are decks that don't really care about a random unit. I'm using this at turn 2, turn 3, or even in some cases turn 4 hard removal because the unit that I want to hit is the only unit that is on board. Or the RNG is so irrelevant because, okay, you have only quality units. I don't care what you choose. There's always a non-choice for you. And this is banish hard removal, so there's no way to recur it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this is interesting. Does anyone actually interested in this? Does anyone think there's an issue with it? Because I have a hard time forming an opinion about it.
I think it's perfectly fine.
You think it's perfectly fine? Are you excited about it? Would you want it in?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I would love if this got in.
No real feedback except thumbs up. And Acoustic, no real feedback except thumbs down. Sorry. Sometimes that happens. This is the show. The Occult Assassin is a 2-drop neutral 1/3 human cultist rogue from Yamato. With active, banish a unit if it's a Spectre, else create a Spectre copy for its controller and destroy the original. I like this because it's a 1-drop thing that could proc entrance effects or proc. The other fun thing is it procs non-native, so this is like all up my alley. Like I know exactly what I'm doing with this, and this is really, really fun. This gives me access to the one thing I need for my non-native support deck, which is a way to turn native cards into non-natives. How do we feel about this, Acoustic?
I have opinions about it.
Oh, you don't like it because of Spectre hate, do you?
Yes, I don't like it because it hoses Spectres, which are a bad deck that do not need hosing.
But the Spectre, well, I guess they have some stuff that, requires them to be on the board. And so this creates issues for them.
Yes.
But it's only 1 card. Like, you could deal with getting rid of 1 hoser, I think.
I guess.
No, you can't. It's kind of hard for Spectres to remove.
Oh, boy. Huh. Okay.
They only are good at removing, like, low health stuff. 3 health is actually kind of tricky.
I mean, you can Phasar blast it, but also I just don't like I don't like 2 mana be able to shut down like any unit from X archetype.
So yeah, Colossus Atlas, it likes, from what I've talked about in their design philosophy and stuff, they like versatility. So they like the idea that you could use this as a super slow removal, or alternatively, you can use this for the other sort of synergies it enables. I'm only really interested in doing this to my stuff. I think using this aggressively, except in the one matchup it's really good against, is just too slow. I mean, I guess it does equipment. Also, this is a decent matchup for because you could scrub off all the equipment. This is a fun little like meme card in a single player Green Man build. You can do some fun stuff with that. Grief, what do you think?
I think it's actually pretty fine because the reaction fits what kind of card it actually is, because we're looking at a hate bear in all honesty. This is a specific tribal hate bear. It can be used for that, but as you mentioned, it is very important for buffs on the unit, etc. It just resets the unit or kills it outright if it was a Spectre to begin with. And sure, it shuts down the deck hard, but that's what a freaking hate bear is. On the other hand, it comes with a very good versatility. You can benefit of leaves play triggers, of having enters play triggers, of having the unit actually be recreated because its stats were basically dumped to non-existence, so on and so forth. It just outright helps out kind of interesting deck archetypes, because the funniest thing is it banishes a Spectre, but it destroys an original, meaning you can activate Entombs off of it.
Which actually that brings up the other interesting thing. I do think, as far as like criticism, I think the order of the second effect is a little weird. I think it should be switched, because in the event that they have 10 units, it would seem like they would end with 10 units. But in the specific case they have 10 units, they will end with 9. It will create the Spectre. The Spectre will go straight to the graveyard, and then it'll destroy the original. So, which turns into a really weird bit of hard removal. And that's something that I don't know how people feel about that. But Empty, what do you think?
So if this card didn't have the silver bullet effect for Spectres, I would actually just love it and be all over it. It's like the applications you can do with this are so cool. Like, let's say you have something you can recur from the grave over and over again, like Brute for undead. You can just sack the Brute over and over again and make Spectre copies of it. It's also delayed hard removal. You can use it to exhaust your opponent's units, since it destroys them and then creates the banished, then creates the Spectre copy with which enters exhausted. Like, there's so many interesting things you can do with it, but then at the same time, like, I want to play Spectres at some point in the future, and if this is running around all over the place, I just can't do it.
Yeah, that's literally my opinion. I'm cool with everything. I just wish it didn't delete Spectres.
Yeah.
But at that point, it doesn't really function anymore and would be very damn overpowered, because it just recreates new tokens.
Well, no, you just have it.
No, you just pick a different tribe, like
Make
Ghost,
a glorp.
something that nothing uses.
You do like
Banish
that.
a unit if it's a glorp, otherwise make a glorp copy.
No, I mean because you at that point you would only use it for recurable or reusable targets.
Yeah, the idea that this is supposed to be slow removal, which was the intent, I think is totally lost. It's just way too slow for that.
I don't think it says slow, because the first time it exhausts the unit, so they can't use it, and then the second turn it removes it.
Yep.
For 2 mana, that's great.
Yep.
So
yeah, then it's not useless. Grief.
Yeah, it doesn't even need the Spectre hosing. It's already a good card.
No. The thing is though, the second time for the removal is basically due to the Spectre part.
Yeah, we're talking about replacing the word Spectre with something else.
Yeah. Yeah, like Stranger Side said, you replace Spectre with Glorp.
And then you have basically, quote unquote, a very quirky card, because it creates just a specific tribe. It's just, oh yeah, it's my tribe that it hates, so it's bad design. No, it isn't.
It's just, given that we're a game that doesn't have a lot of major tournament support, you're trying to fix that. Doesn't have sideboarding. The concern is that it's too much of a silver bullet.
It's for a bad tribe too.
This is basically the Popka argument with Dark Box, my dude.
Yeah, but Dark Box doesn't nerf Mill nearly as much as this hurts Spectres.
Anyways, let's move on. It Approaches is a 0-drop spirit exclusive legend from Kaufhand. Haven't heard that name in a while. An 8, and after you return 10 units from the graveyard to play, create It Arrives. Banish this. It Has Arrived, which is actually the name of the thing. There was a little goof there, apparently. Is the reward in an invasion. For the rest of the game, at the end of your turn, play the highest cost unit in your graveyard and banish this. So, what this does for you, you get, if you are doing heavy recursion, you can get a lot of extra recursion for free. I think this is interesting. It plays into, actually, one of the reasons that it settled in Kaufhand was it played into a lot of existing Kaufhand tropes with Unburial Site being a very, very cheap reanimator and some of the other stuff that we'd kind of gotten started with it. Including, I think this procs with Relife. So Unburial Site, Relife, etc. And you get this really, really cool reward. I like it for obvious reasons. And it does make me wonder how easy it is to get off that requirement and whether or not it's worth it to run. So if I'll let you talk on this one.
Did you snipe the realm? Because I remember that actually Mystic even pinged me in the middle of the night to ask me if this was part of Walnacht.
And you didn't get back to him in time.
In the middle of the night.
I didn't snipe him. Someone else did. Go check the Discord. Anyways. Grief, what do you think of this?
I like the card, but I'm very confused why it's now in Carfi. But hey, well, whatever.
Unburial Site and Relife. I gave you 2 reasons.
Yeah, but you're basically looking at a realm which does graveyard shenanigans on frickin' Maz.
Yeah. Anyways.
I mean, I would have even understood if this was Mordstall.
Yeah. It could have gone in a bunch of different places.
Why is this whatever. Neat card. I'm just confused about the realm. Next person, please.
Okay. Empty, what do you think?
Oh yeah, it's a neat card.
I had art on hand, okay?
I think it's going to be really difficult to get it off in standard, but in Legacy it'll be a lot easier because you have like old undead. Mm-hmm. And the payoff could be really cool. Like, it is always the highest cost card, so if you run like a bit of discard and are able to get something really impressive in your graveyard, it could be really strong. Mm-hmm. Also, it's a quest, so immediately I am drawn to it.
Yeah. Acoustic, what do you think?
It's fine, I guess. You fulfill a condition, you mill Kadar or something, because that works, right? And then you get Kadar. I don't know, like, I don't have much to say about it. It's good for the reanimator decks.
Yeah.
Although a lot of them tend to curve low, so like this is a build where it's like you want the undead, you want the reanimator package, and then you want like a Kadar or something. The big thing you cheat out.
Well, yeah, you find a top end. There's plenty of good green top ends that would work just fine with this, I think.
Yeah, true. You can have like a menace or
and it doesn't even have to really be an on-theme top end. I mean, in what is it? Well, in Legacy, Soul Claimer or something cute. It doesn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I suppose.
You could run the what's the thing? It's like the 10 drop that you choose a tribal type in your graveyard and return them all to play.
Yeah.
Old World Titan.
And that could like get the trigger off if you haven't.
Oh yeah, because it does play it, and you can do some fun tribal shenanigans with this.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Okay, the Visionary of Souls is a 5-drop spirit 5/5 Spectre Arcanist from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. With when an allied unit with rebound dies, discard it and return it to play. And active, give another allied Spectre rebound. So, Spectre support. I'm sure you guys are happy about this. We've been talking a lot about Spectre. It's like Spectre week here to submit.
Yeah.
So basically this turns your rebound into mega rebound. You get when it would die, it would go back to your hand, but instead you're going to discard it and then reanimate it. So it procs discard triggers. It returns the unit to play, so it makes rebound like similar to a Shinbone Jobster shell. And you can also use the active to really keep things sticky. So this gives you a lot of extra presence on the board and helps with your value engine. It's a little slow, I think, with the active part, but that passive is so good, I don't even think it matters. You have a lot of stuff that has rebound anyway. So having this available as sort of like a backup option, I think is great. Acoustic, what do you think of this? You designed it.
Well, it's my card, yeah. This is another thing that I was meant to push the Brandisher combo deck. Because like it discards specifically pretty much to do the Brandisher proc thing, and then it's also just protection for your Spectres. It itself has 5 attacks, so if you discard it, if you have 2 of these on the board, they can boost each other. I guess you can use this on Brandisher to give it some protection, which it sorely needs. And also, as far as I know, Spectres don't really have a 5, so this is kind of the 5. It was originally at 4 mana, but yeah. Like I was told to scale it up to a 5-drop, so, and that let me buff the attack a bit. So
I see. Grief, what do you think of this?
Same issue as before. This doesn't need Brandisher. And even if you run it in Brandisher, you cannot really get to Brandisher in a very meaningful way to the point where you want to have the synergies. This will probably be a top end in any kind of very rebound heavy deck instead of a Spectre heavy deck. Sure, you can utilize the Spectre ability part of the granting Spectre rebound, but you will do this for very specific mid-range or strong attack units. Fun enough, this will help out the Spectral Blade more than Brandisher does, because now Spectral Blade is a repeatable burn card. Because you play this dude, turn 6, you can play the Spectral Blade or Spectral Sword, give it rebound, attack on that turn. You can also you still have 3 mana open to do what jack shit what you want. If it dies, it gets back to your hand, discarded, back to the field. By the way, it entered the graveyard once, returned to hand, entered the graveyard twice, entered the field. Now you have a +2 on any unit on your board.
Yeah. MT, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't think this really works that well as Spectre support. I think it's going to be running rebound decks more often. The issue is Spectres don't actually run that many cards with rebound. And one of the runs they do run is a Lost Lurker, which you don't want to trigger with this because you lose the summon. The other thing is that even if you are running more cards with rebound, this requires the card to have rebound while it's in play, which is something that Spectres aren't going to do that often because a lot of the time they're discarding their rebound cards multiple times, or at least once, in which case they lose the rebound and this no longer has value. And then you do have the active, but at 5 mana, like the earliest you can get that off is turn 6, which I think is just too slow.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the deck, so there's really not much I could say on it. It's cute. Bloody Cheat is a 5-drop neutral action from Wonderstar Casino. Choose a card in your deck, take damage equal to twice its base cost and play it, and shuffle your deck. So for 5 mana, you too can forcibly lose the game with Plasma Sploosh. By forgetting it says base cost. No. So I don't know the story behind this one, but I'm going to make one up. It's sitting at 0, so this tells me that this might be the story. Zinker was like, what would it take to get a pure tutor into the game? This is what he comes up with, and it still gets downvoted to 0. Based around discussions I've heard, that might be the case. Grief, how do you feel about this?
This is not a pure tutor. This is, I win the freaking game right now for 5 mana.
Yeah. There's cheat in the name for a reason.
Yeah.
This card.
Oh, you do play
is-
it.
You play it. You don't put it into your hand. You freaking play that card. I'm burning 20 HP for whatever kind of combo I want to do. Fuck it. I just win the game this turn. So why do I even care? This is a combo card at its finest. The only deck plan you have is, oh yeah, I assembling my bullshit combo, or have my bullshit combo work out of my deck, get to 5 mana as quickly as possible with this card, which I probably even hard mulligan for. Drop it turn 5 if my opponent has no way to interact with me. He is so damn dead. He cannot even surrender how fast, probably even uninteractable trigger choose window bullshit actually is coming his way. Oh, I love this type of card. I hate and absolutely loathe the execution.
So, Stranger read it wrong. It doesn't say play, it says put it into your hand. Is that even acceptable? Could it then maybe
That's
just
terrible.
deal damage equal to
That's
its cost?
shit.
That's absolutely. Oh god, that's so.
Well,
terrible.
this is the thing, is
Draw
nobody
a
gets
card,
tutors
5
in,
mana,
right?
draw a card, die.
The thing is,
Epic.
it's in that point it's a 5 mana do nothing besides dealing your own face damage.
Oh, the Blood Painter build.
What?
Turn 5. Wait a minute. Turn 5. I play my Blood Painter. Turn 4. I play Blood Painter. Turn 5. I have initiative. I play Bloody Cheat. I now draw my Pride 2-hand. Pride costs 9 mana. Now you, third rate duelist with a 4 reflect, get 18 damage right to your dome. I win the game because I'm the better Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist.
No, I don't know. If it was just its base cost, maybe a little bit cheaper, and didn't play the card, I think that could work out.
Oh god.
Maybe.
If we're
But
just
like
so
in-
determined to get a pure tutor in the game, which I think we should have had one a long time ago. But MT, what do you think?
I mean, Grief kind of already went over it. It has some problems.
Oh.
Well, but how do we fix those? We're submitted, guys. We're on submitted. We're on the air.
This was-
I don't know. Like I guess you could up the costs. At some point, it will become okay, but it's still going to be like
But at that
in the
point,
game.
it's just bad, I think.
At that point,
Well,
it's
how
just
do you make it-
bait.
How do you make something like this balanced?
The thing is,
I don't know.
the thing is, the very first thing we have to do is it only freaking puts the card into your hand. Then we can work with the bleeding effect. Either make it life loss if you want to pussy out of the interaction with the blood priest, which I say don't because that's hilarious.
Oh, Blood Priest. Yeah, okay, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. Blood Priest combo.
Because that shit's hilarious. On the other hand, if we do that with draw to hand, this card has to cost like 2 or maybe 1 mana.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, sure, even if you draw your combo enabler, that's like 6 to 8 damage probably, because most combo enabling cards cost around 3 to 5 mana in the most cases when we try to make them more balanced.
I think it only needs to bleed for its cost. If it goes to hand.
No.
If it bleeds for its cost, then it's just bust.
If
I
it
mean,
goes
that-
to hand, not playing it.
The thing is,
sure.
if you go with the bleeds for twice, this has a very limited range of what it actually could target without killing you. So you cannot go for something like Osh and stuff like that. So trying to go with so-called tax evasion effects where, okay, now I'm drawing my Osh because I can reduce its cost to whatever, and now I'm playing it, and because I found my combo and I just blight myself for 8 to 12 damage, I'm fine. This is exactly the thing you try to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this isn't too appealing to people who like consistency tools, and this definitely isn't appealing to people who hate consistency tools. I don't know who this card is for. Like, this is just, and in too many cases, it's busted in its current state. Does anyone else have anything to say about this? I feel like we've talked too long on this card.
In its current state, the card will see no fair play. It should not just play the card, I guess, for feedback, and then you balance around that because in its current state, there's so much like drawbacks. The card is either unplayable or it's 5 mana win the game. Like that's not.
Yeah.
Like if this card is good, it's busted.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. Hey guys, we have for you today, grand special. A Sporium Corium iteration of Mr. Extinction with 4 lines of text.
Let's go.
Thank you for watching the show. Like, comment. Mr. Extinction is a 6-drop strength 5/6 Toon Wrestler from Karachar. Ward, fast, and rage an ally unit duels your opponent. Deal 10 damage to it. So this is a fling enable type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think this could be really cute. I like the simplicity of this. I like how hard Sporium is fighting for this concept he's come up with, and getting Dia's art there. I feel like some iteration of this needs to get in just because of his pure tenacity. This version's fine. I like fling. I'm so glad to see a fling effect, and yeah, actually the deal 10 damage might even be survivable for units that you're probably going to win with anyway, but it's whatever. What do we think of this, Empty?
I don't know. I find it a bit weird that it's like a rage support card.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's not really a generic fling. You have to have something that can proc the rage.
Well, there's this card that came out a while ago. I don't know if you heard about it, called Staptician. And what it does...
Staptician is not living until turn 6. If that happens, you've already won the game. You do not need this. Yeah, I don't have that much to say about it.
Okay. It's got ward and it's fast.
Yeah.
So you could probably find a good way, maybe turn 7
I like how fast has still like survived through every iteration.
Yeah, it's I think the only thing except Toon Wrestler from Karachar that does. Acoustic, what do you think?
I mean, this is just this is just a funny card. Like, he takes damage and he picks up one of your dudes and fucking chucks it at their face, and then they explode. Like, balance wise, this is cool. It's also just funny. I mean, the deal 10 damage is pretty much the unit explodes, but it's rage enabler, so it actually fits with the rage decks because this is a rage card, so it's going the rage deck. So you're running a lot of rage units. Or maybe you just run it with like big stuff, just big stuff to chuck at your opponent.
Yeah,
I've always wanted a fling effect in the game. So just seeing it in any manner, like I just want to chuck dudes at my opponent's face, and this lets me chuck dudes at my opponent's face.
Green, what do you think of this?
This needs one more point of attack. Why? Because I want to play this in Tusk.
Have it be a 6/6/6?
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
I want to play it in Tusknut together with all the Stompers and the Giants. And just
how are you going to proc the rage though?
It's probably easier in a Legacy to do that. It's considering that you have stuff like mines and shit like that, and multi-ping board wipes. That's the hilarious part. Funny enough, you can also play this in the janky Rage Legacy deck together with one of the most hilarious cards. brought to you by yourself truly. Guardian of the Abyss has a rage effect which says damage dealt to it is dealt to both players.
Yes.
I live for it.
You pick up the Guardian, chuck his stony ass face at your opponent. He implodes, and all the damage fragments of 10 damage are shot at both players. If you have a Blood Priest on the board, you deal 10 damage more to your opponent's face. So that means we have a 23 damage combo on the board, which will never happen outside of single player, but it's hilarious to think about.
But it's hilarious.
By the way, Stranger's Drink combo of the day. Deal 10 damage to it normally implies that this is the thing dealing the damage, so I'm going to give him Lightbound.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Oh yeah, true.
I'm going to give him Lightbound.
Yeah, that's really good.
Wait, what happens if you turn him into a Dayling?
Oh no, the Dayling memes are back.
Okay, I think we're good.
That's amazing.
I think that was the end of the
List.
list.
Yeah. That's the last one.
Okie dokie then. So I am going to stop the share.
Right.
This was a fun episode. I think we ran a little long. That's whatever. I mean, you know, you guys keep watching, so that's on you at that point. So thank you very much, Grief and Empty, for being on the show. As always, we'll find an adjective for you someday, Empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always happy to be here.
And thank you very much, Acoustic, for being a guest host. And always good to have you on. Like your robe or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Around the house robe. Yeah, he just says around the house robe. We're totally casual here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I keep doing this show. Keep on voting for cards and keep on playing collective, guys. Bye.
See ya.